All right, so this video is this right here is a discussion between me and Ninja Skeptic. I believe that's his channel name, Ninja Skeptic. Okay, we go into the book of Isaiah, right? We go into Psalm 22 a little bit. This is a conversation about if there are actual messianic prophecies. Okay. We camp out really in Isaiah chapter 52, chapter 52, 13 through 15. Okay. We will be doing this again. So this guy was very respectful. Okay. Very respectful. Good guy. Okay. So we hit it off pretty well. I think this guy's good. I think he's got his stuff. However, I think he is wrong, obviously, and he thinks I'm wrong. So you're going to see in this discussion where we stand on certain things, and hopefully you are blessed by it. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, do all that great stuff, and let's jump right into it. So what position do you take on this?
Well, I used to be a Christian. I was Baptist growing up for quite a while, up until my later teens, until I started researching the prophecies, and I have yet to come across a prophecy that I think Jesus has literally fulfilled. Every single one that I've come across needs some sort of spiritualizing, even though that the text doesn't give any inference on why we should take it non-literally. And you think there would be at least one prophecy that he fulfilled literally, but I've yet to come across it.
Okay. Have you by chance, have you ever came across Psalm 22?
Of course.
Where it says that, they pierced my hands and feet?
Yeah. What translation are you?
Well, I lean towards more Baptist than anything. I grew up Pentecostal, no longer that, because I am obviously a Trinitarian, so I don't follow the Pentecostal deal. So I still believe in the gifts and everything. So I'm not a cessationist, right? But
Right.
I'm a continuationist and Baptist at the same time, if that makes any sense. But I hold more towards their beliefs as far as everything else goes, basically.
Sure, but I was asking what translation you're using.
Oh, sorry.
22.
ESV.
ESV.
I thought you said what tradition do I come from?
Yeah, no worries. Well, the reason I asked for the translation is if you look at the Hebrew, it doesn't say pierced. That is a translation error, and I think most scholars, and I have a couple concordances and Bible commentaries here with me if you want to look at that. It doesn't translate to pierce. It translates more to bruised or injured or tied. There's some translations that say tied. But also it wouldn't be like, if you go back in the context of Psalm 22, it's not a prophecy. There's nowhere inside Psalm 22 that it's saying, here's a future event that's going to happen. So the New Testament narrative, show me if there is, but there's no future tense words.
And that's kind of there is.
Okay.
If anything, I would say that it's a past tense. I would say that would make it a prophecy because, the first verse is, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's the same words that Jesus says, right? It says, my tongue is stuck to my jaw or something like that. And then Jesus says, I thirst. Like that's why he said those things. And I think, they cast lots for my garments. That's exactly what they did. And it's all written down in the Gospels. So that prophecy alone would be straight, in my opinion.
They kind of did that with everybody who was crucified, like giving away their clothes and that kind of stuff was a tradition that's not anything special for Jesus.
Yeah, but even if that's true, it still happened though. So
perhaps, I don't read, and I would like to actually go back further so we can actually understand the context of Psalm 22. But I just don't, and these are the different, the interpretations, and you're welcome to your own. But like I said, I don't see any literal prophecies being fulfilled. And there's strict standards for what is and what isn't a prophecy. And it has to be, and I'll have to try to look up the verse. It even tells you in the Bible what is a prophecy and how do you know it's going to come true. You know, say finding something, and this is what typology basically. I don't believe that typology is prophecy, because a prophecy is this thing is going to happen in this way, and then it happens in that way. In Psalm 22, you don't have any claims of what's going to happen in the future. All we have is two stories that are similar. And it's very easy just to identify it as post hoc rationalizations when you look at all the other evidence that the writers of the New Testament were just trying to find parallels, right? If you look at literally any single identified quote of a prophecy from the New Testament and go read what that prophecy is, it's not even a prophecy most of the time. And every single time it does not relate literally to what's happening. I wish I didn't prepare for that claim right there, so I don't have the evidence to back that up, but maybe I can.
I'll be honest with you, dude, I didn't either. I just kind of pulled it out. But like the thing, and I would agree with you that typologies, you can, me as a Christian, right? I would say that, I don't know, Joseph could be a typology, Moses could be a typology, King David could be a typology, but that doesn't mean that, that's a prophecy. Obviously,
right? Absolutely. The typology literally can apply to anything, anyone. So it's not a very good way of testing a prophecy, right?
Okay.
I could. Anybody can say, "I did this thing that's similar to that thing,"
right?
And I kind of see that as what's happening in Psalm 22 as well. This is just King David feeling forsaken, right?
Okay.
Hold on, I have debated Psalm 22 a couple of times, but it's been a while.
I mean, look, if you're more prepared for Isaiah 53, we can definitely do that. I just wanted to bring that one up real quick and see if you've known that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Isaiah 53.
I'm just trying to look through real quick, and because I used to have a really good point to this, but yeah, let's move on to what we had actually prepared for. Okay. I think that'll be a more stimulating conversation.
That's fine with me. All right.
Okay, so you do think that Isaiah 53 is a prophecy? Yes. Is that correct? Okay, yes, can you show me where exactly, what chapter and verse the actual prophecy part is, or is it the whole chapter?
It's pretty much the whole chapter. It expresses the suffering servant, and you've heard that before, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But even in verse 5, it says, "But he was pierced." So that's kind of the same thing, where it's like looking into the future, and it's telling us what he was, right? So he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Here, let me, they can't see that. Okay, here we go. So I've got it on the screen. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace. And with his wounds, we are healed. Whose wounds? Who was pierced?
Or Israel's wounds, sorry. Have you read all of Isaiah?
Yeah.
Okay, so does Isaiah identify who the servant is?
Well, I mean, you can even go back to Isaiah 42, where it says, "My servant whom my soul delights, I will put my spirit in him, and he will do these things, and he will bring justice."
Yeah, and who is him?
Jesus.
So you're saying that Isaiah doesn't very clearly identify who it is referring to when it talks about him or the Savior?
Well, no, but here's the thing, though.
Well, I
In
would just
verse
like
1,
to answer to that. Does it clarify who the Savior is in Isaiah?
no, not like in this very prophecy, but everything that
I'm
Jesus
just talking about in
is.
all of Isaiah because I like to take the context as a whole.
Oh yeah, for sure, and that's why
Uh,
we're in 53 right now, and I brought you all the way back to 42.
Right, yeah, and I'll be taking you back too, so we can actually get a proper understanding of what the actual context of this is, and that it is not the Savior is quite literally Israel. Or the servant. Sorry, that the servant is quite literally Israel,
Okay.
and it identifies this very clearly, very literally, several times.
Okay.
So I don't see how this could be about Jesus when it identifies the servant as being Israel. I think it's a total of 8 times, actually. Let me look in my notes here. Yeah, Isaiah 41, 8 through 9, 43, 10, 44, 1 and 2, 44, 21, 45, 4, 48, 20, 53, 13. They all identify the servant as being Israel. And if you'd like to go through and read each one of those, I'm perfectly happy to do that.
Well, actually, yeah, we can do Isaiah 43:10. And actually, I would argue that that's Jesus as well, that's not Israel. Because it says right here, verse 10, you are my witnesses, declares the Lord. Now that's speaking to them, obviously, but, and, which is also my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me that I am he, and understand that I am he. Okay, before me no God was formed, nor shall there be after me. And then in verse 11, I am the Lord, I am Yahweh, and besides me there is no Savior.
Mm-hmm.
So besides him, there is no Savior. And also, the servant is supposed to show us, to make us believe that he is, that I am he, that Yahweh is I am he. And Jesus actually claims this very
Sure.
title, I am he.
Sure. And if you don't, I don't, just given how late all of the New Testament was, it's hard to say that these things actually happen. But
Respectfully,
that's
none of it was,
irrelevant to what my claims are. So I'll let you have that one. My claims are that this is not about Jesus. There's nowhere in Isaiah that it talks about a Messiah that's going to come and do the things that Jesus did. Nowhere does it say that the servant is anything other than the land of Israel. So the way I read it, the prophecy, and it is a prophecy, starts at Isaiah 52:9.
50. Okay, let me go to it. 52:9. See. And I would say the prophecy of 53 would start in 52. So I think that's where you're going with this.
All right. So we have, and I brought us to 52:9 because that's when they are breaking forth from their exile, right, and returning to the land, and God is making a bunch of promises and prophecies for what's going to be happened. Their punishment is over, the Babylonian exile, right? And now they have a chance to please God again. And he's basically saying, this is what's gonna, we'll just read it. So just for the context for any of your viewers, end of the Babylonian exile, break forth, shout together for joy, you ruins of Jerusalem. For the Lord has comforted his people, he has redeemed Jerusalem. The Lord has bared his holy arm before the eyes of all nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. So this is I read it as the lead up to what God is going to be promising, because anyone who's read it knows that he's promising many things for Israel. So depart, go out from there, talking about the Babylonian exile. We're touch no unclean thing, go out from the midst of it and purify yourselves, you who carry the vessels of the Lord. For you shall not go out in haste, and you shall not go out in flight. For the Lord will go before you, and God of Israel will be your rear guard. So he's telling them, hey, I got your back. Your punishment's over. Let's go on, and we're gonna have a prospering country. And it goes right into, I love the title, the suffering servant. See, my servant shall prosper. He shall be exalted and lifted up, and shall be very high. Just as there were many who were astonished at him, so marred was his appearance beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of mortals. So he shall startle many nations.
So how is that? How could that possibly be without incredible symbolic claims? How could that possibly be Israel right there? Because that's literally what
it is very symbolic, and that's the theme of Deutero Isaiah. It's very thematic. It's very
for sure, for sure.
So yes, I see this as Israel. Israel has been decimated at this point. Their crops were barren. Their economy was broken. Their governments were broken, right? And they're starting to bring that all back. Israel was desolate at this time. Wars have been hitting them for centuries, and the promise from God has been coming for centuries now. So Deutero Isaiah comes in, which, I mean, we obviously know this isn't actually Isaiah, or even King David at this point talking, because it's written centuries after his death. I don't see.
We could. We can debate about that all day. That's just.
I mean, I just go off what the scholarly consensus is for dates.
Yeah, well, I have the same amount of scholarship that goes on my side too. So it's actually historically, it's actually proven. We even know in the Dead Sea Scrolls that we have the closest resemblance to the Masoretic text that we have ever had. And I wouldn't even say it's word for word, but I would say it's very close, and it actually astonished most people. Sure. But
I'm not saying that any translation errors or anything like that occurred. I'm saying it was.
No, I'm just saying it was written
late, at the time, and it definitely wasn't written by David, because
no, not David, because this is Isaiah.
Well,
not David. David didn't write this. David wrote Psalm, but David didn't write Isaiah.
Yeah, I was distracted by the first one.
So getting into the text here. I understand where you're coming at. Trust me. I've heard this before. But verse 14 right here, as many were astonished at you. Okay, that's great. But right here, his appearance was so marred. Okay. This is my translation. Marred beyond human semblance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And his form beyond that of the children of mankind. Okay. So basically, it's talking about somebody being marred, being beaten, being like mauled, right, to the point of not resembling a human, right? So
sure,
that's speaking of, and you can.
No, I see the parallels for sure, and I definitely see it. What convinces me is, and we'll read this shortly. It states very clearly who the servant is. Okay. And that evidence leads me to assume that if it's telling you what it is, then that's what it is. I have a hard time saying, oh, well, Isaiah says 8 different times that the servant is the land of Israel, but I'm just going to ignore that part and say it was actually about Jesus.
Well, I mean, if you want to take away the New Testament altogether, then I could see, because what you said earlier, it's dated later, which again we can debate about that. but it's
Well, you have Proto Isaiah and Deutero Isaiah.
I'm just saying, like,
I'm not sure if you can even come up with one single scholar that disagrees that these were written by different people, like PhD scholar.
Well, then there's no such thing as Christianity if that's the case. Historically,
I mean, Christianity is a faith. It's not evidence of anything.
No, you have to have evidence to have the faith that we have. We don't just go off of.
Well, in that case, then yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
there is no because, please correct me, but do you know of a single PhD scholar who thinks all of Isaiah was written by one person?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Wes Huff. You ever heard of Wes Huff?
He's a PhD student who has been decimated by all the scholars for the crap he's been saying.
No, not
He has
really.
a terrible example if you want to go over his credibility lately.
Okay, what about James White? You ever heard of him?
James White, is he PhD?
Yeah. That's one. Okay. And I could, I've got an actual Jew, descendant from Jews. Okay. A Messianic Jew, Dr. Michael Brown. He's written on this several times, showing that and debated so many people throughout his time that he's still alive today. And he would argue that this is definitely talking about Jesus and written by Isaiah in that time.
For sure. If you read the Disputation of Barcelona, the Jews were saying the opposite thing just hundreds of years after all this is supposedly, more than 100 years.
You're always going to have haters.
What I'm saying is that this argument has been going on for the entirety of Christianity. It's
but because it's debated, the simple fact that it's debated does not mean that it's false.
I know. What I'm saying is that the Jewish church, I don't know what to call the old Jewish organizations, but they made the opposite arguments early on. So finding an anecdotal Jewish practitioner who says differently is unconvincing, unless he has a PhD and he can back his stuff up. What was that name that you had said? The something White, I think.
James White. If he doesn't, that's fine. If he doesn't have a PhD, that's fine. I brought up Dr. Michael Brown.
What's his PhD?
An actual Jew. But I mean, either way, it doesn't really matter. But either way, if just because it's been debated, that doesn't mean anything. That just means that there's haters. And actually, there are more Jews that are for Christ, Messianic Jews is what they're called, than against him. There's actually more for him than there be against him. So it's actually,
you'll have to bring receipts on that one. I don't know if I can
do that later. We're dealing with the text.
I feel like if that's the case, most of Israel would be Christian.
No. I would
if
say
you said most Jews are Messianic Jews.
Yes, I said most Jews are, okay, but it's being debated at this moment and forever will be debated until Christ comes. So that's just how it is. Everything will be debated.
Sure.
Everything. Every religion is debated. Atheism's debated. All that stuff is debated.
I don't see how atheism gets debated. That one's always been silly to me.
What you mean?
How do you debate atheism? Atheism is a lack of belief in something.
Right. So to
how
show
do you debate what somebody doesn't believe?
And that's debunking atheism to show that there is a God.
Well,
so you can just reverse it on top of them, right? So if
I think we got different definitions for atheism then.
You give the actual evidence and then you flip it on its head and you don't have atheism no more because you have to believe in something.
I'm an atheist, but I don't claim there is no God. Atheism is just a lack of belief that there is, or lack of conviction that there is. Anti-theism is a belief that there is no God.
Well, no, actually, atheism. Okay, I would say that you're more probably
You're going to say agnostic, but all atheists are agnostic.
Well, yeah, but a lot of them claim that there is no God, and that's literally
Right.
atheist.
And those people
That's
would
literally
be
what that means.
classified as anti-theists. I'm just going off what words mean.
Yeah,
Atheism without theism. So if you don't have a theism, that doesn't mean
it's
you
just no
have a
God.
positive belief in the negative.
Yeah, so theism is the belief of God, not necessarily the Christian God, but a God. Okay, so you take the
Right.
God out, then that means you got atheism. So that's literally what atheism means, is no God.
Yeah. It means you don't believe in God. It doesn't mean you believe there is no God. It's a middle ground.
Okay,
It's what
we
atheism to me is, and by what words mean, is what people claim agnostics are, but all atheists are agnostic. If you believe there is
to an
no God,
extent,
then you are anti-theist.
I would agree with that. Yes, but the whole point of atheism is to try to prove that there is no God, and in order to do
Well,
that, you must not believe in God in order to
well,
do that. Yeah.
I I think that's got to be a projection because I know a lot of atheists. I know a lot of Christians. I try to have rational, calm conversations with anybody
For
about
sure.
stuff. So I get a lot of the different sides, and I don't see that from atheists. Most of
Well,
the time, from my experience, atheists are more on the defense because we feel like Christians are projecting beliefs that we don't even have, like there is no God.
mhm.
That's not a claim that most atheists make, and if they did, I would say they're not an atheist; they're an anti-theist.
Okay, that's fine. We can move forward. I am curious about these claims. Now we can go through them all. That's fine. But this one right here, if this is one of them, then I would say it's directly talking about Jesus, just because of what he actually did.
Okay.
He was high and lifted up. He was astonished, right? Everybody was astonished at him, right? They were all astonished at his teachings, right? They all followed him. Multitudes upon multitudes followed him
What
everywhere.
verse are you reading?
Well, that's in the New Testament, but the New
Oh,
Testament doesn't matter because it was the later versions. So
right. Yeah, I'm
we're not
mostly
even
just
looking at that.
focused on what the prophecies were, and if Jesus, if they were a messianic prophecy to begin with. I don't
Is
see
this a messianic,
Isaiah
or not,
53
not a
as a
messianic?
messianic
Is this a
prophecy.
prophecy?
What was that?
Is this a prophecy?
Yes,
Okay, well, if it's a prophecy, then this is telling exactly what Jesus did.
it's
If you
not a
want to look into the
messianic
New
prophecy.
Testament. Okay, but that's what we're debating. So is it a prophecy or is it not?
Yes,
So I'm arguing that it's for the messianic. Okay, it's a messianic prophecy.
certainly.
You're saying that it's not. So either way, it's a
Can
prophecy.
you show me where it says anything about a Messiah?
Yeah, like the chosen one. That's what Messiah means. That's what Christ
No,
means. It's chosen one,
no. Christ means anointed. Uh,
anointed, chosen. Yes.
Messiahs are generally kings.
No,
Uh,
there is only one Messiah, and he is the chosen of God. He
uh,
is the anointed one. He is the only begotten, really, which means
I know
uh
those are all claims the New Testament makes. I know.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going with what the prophecies actually said.
Well, that's what
Uh,
I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying. So if we can say, so how would Israel be able to see this unfold in front of them, specifically if it is about them? Because right here it says his appearance was marred beyond human semblance, and he was high and lifted up.
let
Actually,
me.
in
Can we
well,
look up
hang on.
the
Well,
translation
hang
on
on.
the word
Let me finish.
human?
Let me finish this thought real quick.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry.
in 70 AD, they were actually trampled on. Historically, now this is not that I would say the Bible prophesies about this because I'm post millennial, but I would say that in 70 AD, historically, we don't have to go into the word for this. Historically, they were trampled on and destroyed, right, in 70
Who?
AD by the Roman Empire. Okay, I would say that the prophecies in the New
Right, which
Testament
goes against Isaiah.
God that did that. But
It,
what I'm saying
which
is right here.
the destruction of the temple in 70 AD goes directly against Isaiah's prophecy of
Yeah,
eternal peace.
and that's because it's not Israel that he's talking about. It's literally
Then
Jesus.
why does it literally say Israel, my servant?
Where does it say that?
Um,
It just
let
says,
me,
"Behold, my servant shall act wisely.
yeah,
He shall be
give me a
high and
second.
lifted
Let me
up, and
put
never
in all
fail."
these. I have that for you.
Okay,
But my tablet's so slow. Um,
you go, brother.
41, 8 through 9. But
Isaiah
you,
41.
Israel, my servant,
Hang
Jacob,
on,
whom I have chosen,
hang on.
the offspring of Abraham, my friend,
Where
you
is this
whom
at?
I took from the ends of the earth and called it its farthest corners, saying to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you off.
Yeah. So where's that at?
Isaiah 41, 8 through 9.
8 through 9. Okay. All right. But you, my servant. Yeah. So what? All I'm saying is that there's no way for that passage in Isaiah 52 to possibly be about Israel. There is no way
Why not?
because God did
Why
not
can't it be
highly exalt them.
symbolism, which is paramount through all of Deutero Isaiah? He uses all kinds of symbolism like this that
Yeah.
is not literal. Yeah,
Right.
he is equating the land of Israel to a person. My son
Uh-huh.
Israel,
Yeah,
my
for sure.
servant Israel. He is giving the writer of Deutero Isaiah is imbuing humanistic qualities upon Israel while calling it Israel. It makes it very clear, you, my servant, Israel.
Yeah.
And then it gives all these qualities that are humanistic, but it tells you exactly who it's or what it's referring to. It's referring to the land of Israel.
Okay. So I have a question for you then. So when, let's say, for instance, when God says, "Return to me, O Israel,"
Mm-hmm.
okay, is that a literal thing? Is that supposed to
Uh,
literally happen to then fulfill prophecy?
what verse are you referring to?
I'm not. I'm just asking a question, just
I have a
hyperbolically.
hard time to. It's very vague. So I try to use the context of the chapters to inform what they're actually trying to say.
Yeah.
So
So
if
would
God
there
just says,
be?
return to me, Israel, it could be a number of things, and I have no context to gain any more information off of that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair enough. But the thing is when what I'm trying to get at is that you're going between prophecy being hyperbolic or literal. Like, could it be literal? Could it be hyperbolic? Like, what is the what is the what has to happen and what needs to be said for it to be either hyperbolic or literal? Because honestly, if this is a prophecy, you have to have signals, right? For them to know that the prophecy has in fact came about. God does not just give a prophecy and you're just like, okay, whatever. Now you need to see exactly where in history that these things happen. Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
would you say, just a quick question, would you say that Jesus was an actual man?
Um, the
Let
evidence
alone that he's
seems to
God, but
point
was he
to
man?
him being real. Yeah,
So
I
he was
do
a
believe he was
literal
probably a
man that walked
historical
the earth.
figure.
Okay. Okay. So he is okay. Was he historically crucified?
I think there's less evidence, or no, yeah, yeah. I would say that that's probably what um, elevated his status to be memorable, and so yeah, yeah. I would say he was probably crucified. He was a historical figure, and they thought he was going to be the Messiah, and I believe when he died, that kind of shattered their hopes, and now they had to kind of come up with reasons on how do we cope with this. What does it actually mean? Do we give up our faith, or do we keep going and try to explain
Well,
this
it,
away? And
it
I think they
said,
chose to try to explain it.
well, it says what they did because, he resurrected, and that could be a whole nother thing. But
So I would love to talk about that sometime, but
well, that's fine. Oh, dude, we gonna definitely do some more debates. That's for sure. That's for sure. Okay. But back on this. So again, back to, okay, so one more question before we go back to the 52. Could there be a time, like Israel can be a servant, we are God's servants, right? It's not, so could this be talking about us or anything else? No. But where in, like, what would have to come about for that prophecy in 52 to show them that, yes, this happened to Israel, not Jesus? Because if he was historically crucified,
I don't think the prophecy came true. First off, it is a prophecy, but the promises that it makes in it definitely didn't come true. We don't have an everlasting peace. The wolves are not laying with the lambs. You know,
no, not yet. I would say it hasn't happened,
which means it hasn't happened
either. Not yet.
Which also means Jesus didn't fulfill this if it hasn't happened yet.
Well, no, but okay, but the whole thing is that the whole timeline where I believe we are is the millennial reign of Christ. I believe we are in Revelation 20. Okay, I don't believe that I believe that the Great Tribulation, all that stuff was speaking of 70 AD and the destruction of the Second Temple. I know we don't have to debate that because, you know, you could probably care less. But the point of it is that there's a timeline to the Bible. Okay, there's a timeline and certain prophecies that has to take place. Okay, certain ones have not happened yet, but the majority has happened. So we can say that in my view, okay, in my humble view, okay, I can say that everything happened the way it happened because we have historical claims. So you just agreed that Jesus was historically crucified, correct?
Most likely, sure. Lots of people were. I have no reason to doubt that you could be one of them.
Well, but I'm just saying, like, what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get at right here in Isaiah 52, that for this prophecy to not be like, you don't think that this prophecy came about at all, not even for Israel, correct?
I mean, no. The prophecy claims that they are going to. It definitely doesn't claim that their temple is going to be demolished in 70 years. It doesn't claim that they're going to be oppressed by the Romans. It claims prosperity. It claims zero war on earth. It claims that all the nations around will come to God because they see how God has glorified Israel.
Actually, it does both. It definitely, there are passages where God says, I will judge the earth. I would judge Jacob. I would judge, you know, all of Israel, right? I will judge Israel at this time.
And they were judged. Sure. And that's what they're coming out of right now. They're coming out of the Babylonian exile, which they saw as a curse from God for not following his ways.
Right. And that's exactly what happened with the Romans as well.
But if Isaiah 53 was true, because when God released them from exile, the Babylonian exile, or not released, but redeemed them, he said, these are the things that are now going to happen because you have been redeemed. But none of those things came about.
What things?
But all the things that I just explained. The nations did not exalt Israel and come to God and glorify God because they saw how wonderful God was treating Israel. Israel just kept on getting hammered.
Well, yeah, because they are not supposed to be high and lifted up.
That's not what Isaiah 53 says.
Because you're arguing, in your argument, it has to be talking about Israel. I think it's talking about the one that actually was lifted up. And that's
I say that because that's what the book says.
I say that because
at 8 different times.
See how we can go back and forth. We can go back and forth all day. I think it's Jesus. You think it's Israel, but which one is true?
Oh, Messiah to come, these things are going to happen. You know, oh, Messiah, my servant. No, it doesn't say that. It says, oh, Israel, my servant. Oh, no, Jacob, my servant.
Passage. It does not say that.
We just read it.
You're talking about chapters before. Okay, and yes, you can talk about all that, but here's the thing.
Yes, those are the ones that inform the context of what's being written.
Yes, but here's the thing: when you're laying out okay, in a book. You're laying out a prophecy after prophecy, telling a story, right? For it to, for these things to happen, for certain things to happen after, which is what a prophecy is. So when you're getting to a certain point in a thing, you cannot just jump back and then say, well, just because it says servant, that means that's what that. No, there can be many servants.
So it doesn't mean what it says it
is
means?
this talking about? What servant is this chapter right here? This little clump of verses, this little passage here. What is this talking about? And how could it possibly be talking about Israel? And how can they pinpoint this in history in order for them to say, yes, we believe that this happened? Because Christians now and Messianic Jews alike can look back into this passage.
I don't think you can claim that Messianic Jews alike. But sorry, I'm semantic. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
That's fine. But Messianic Jews, there are such thing. Even if you would argue that there's not many of them, that's okay. I don't. It doesn't really matter in my eyes. When you get actual Jews that believe, okay, that this passage is actually talking about Jesus, which there is, okay. It's not just a bunch of Gentiles getting together and being like, oh, well, look at this passage. It's crazy. No.
So I don't give much credit to any modern day. I don't care if you're Jewish or Muslim or anything like that. You have the same information that I do. So if a Jewish person is a Christian or a Messianic Jew, that means little to me now. The Jews of Jesus's time didn't accept him as Messiah.
Yeah, they did.
And it's because he didn't fulfill the prophecies, the actual Messianic prophecies that said a king will come and rule over them.
Yeah.
That's why they denied him as being the Messiah, because it didn't literally translate from what they've been reading and taught. They're like, no, that's not what the book says. You are not the Messiah.
It's because it literally says that they will be blinded. They will, their hearts are hardened. Okay. They cannot see it, but certain ones have seen it. And we see that. And of course, you can't take from the New Testament whenever you want to. And then whenever, like, I want to give, like, the book of Acts, right? Acts chapter 2. Okay. What happened? Acts chapter 1, Jesus ascended, sent out his apostles, right? Finally. Okay. He went to sit down at the right hand of the Father. This is just, we can go through the whole, if it's historical fact or not. I believe it is. And I believe we have so many things to back that up. But let's just say in Acts chapter 2, right? After the day of Pentecost, there were about 3,000 that were saved that day because what Peter literally spoke. He spoke it out. He actually used Joel chapter 2 to bring forth this convergence. Okay, this rapid, this crazy astonishment, right? That happened back in those days. And so we have those accounts, and people like to say that they're not actually written by them. That's been debated, and we have evidence towards it. But anyway, so if we have the accounts of Acts, okay, which is one of the earliest writings of the New Testament, it could actually be dated before the earliest gospel, which is Mark, okay? And we have all these accounts, okay? And Peter says, this Messiah that you murdered, you killed on the cross, right, has resurrected again. And many believed him. Some didn't, but many did. And it grew through time, and we can see that through history.
Where was he when he was converting?
Huh?
Was he converting Jews or was he converting Romans?
Jews.
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with the historicity of that.
Peter was a Jew himself. So was Paul, right? So was John. So were the rest of the apostles. The 70 and the 72 that he sent out in Luke, they were also Jews. Many followed him. Okay, it was not until after he resurrected that really the Gentiles really started coming in. And that was about Acts chapter 2 and stuff like that. Like, it was kind of like a mixture, right? Because Paul says that there is no Jew or Greek in God's eyes anymore. That's when the
Sure.
Gentiles
I
were
mean,
getting grafted in.
the way I understand history, Christianity took its rise in the Greco-Roman, not in Israel.
No, but that's the thing.
Right? Is that true though? Like Christianity, if it wasn't for its growth in the Greco-Roman area, after Paul fled, right? What was it, Paul? We wouldn't have Christianity today. Like
Well,
that
but
is the main
here's what
force
it
of
is.
why Christianity is so globalized today. Is that
Well, but
a
here's
false
what it
statement?
is. So where did Jesus go according to the New Testament and history, actually? Where did he go to be crucified? Where was he crucified?
I
Jerusalem.
actually, okay, yeah, I figured that's what it was, but it seemed too easy of an answer.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to trick you here. But it was Jerusalem, right? Which is a
Right.
Jewish city. Okay.
Mhm.
So, which was what? It was Roman. Romans took it over.
Yeah, it's Roman occupied.
So
Which
when did Jesus come down in history? He came down in about, I think he was born, I think it was 3 AD, possibly somewhere around there, give or take, whatever.
yeah, depends on who you're listening to, but it's within the first 5 years
right.
of the.
So who, when he came about his ministry, when he was baptized and everything else, and when he actually lived and taught historically, he actually lived and he actually taught these things and everything like that. All religions point to Jesus, but they deny that he's the Messiah. But
Well, I would vehemently disagree with that. All religions point to Jesus, but I don't think you could substantiate that claim in any way.
Yeah, like Muslims, right? They even have him written in the Quran.
Yeah, they see him as a prophet.
They see him as
the
a
Muslim
prophet,
faith
not the Son
is
of God. You
based
have
largely off of the Abrahamic religion, so it would make sense that there would be some relations there.
even the Hindus, they believe in Jesus because they believe that he came to them in India when he was a teenager.
They don't
That's
think
what
he's the
they're claiming.
Messiah.
No, exactly. Why would they see him as the Messiah? Because then they would be Christian. You see how religions work. Religions work.
Right. I just don't see
came
how
to be God.
you could
Jesus
say that
came to be
religion
God.
points to Jesus. How does the Native American religion point to Jesus?
What do you mean?
There's several, but pick one. How does that point to Jesus?
You talking about like?
How does Scientology point to Jesus?
Yeah. Like the only one that really points to Jesus as who he is or what he claimed is Christianity. That's what sets us apart from all other.
Which is why I disagree with your claim that all religions point to Jesus. That's just blatantly false.
Not points to him as like worship him, right? Like I'm saying, sorry, that was I misspoke. Sorry, I meant like they acknowledge that he existed.
Sure. Yeah.
He was a great man,
even
and
Gandhi. He's like, I love that Jesus spoke, but the Christians are so unlike him.
I'll give you that all day, dude. Hey, look, me and you could get on the same boat with that, brother. I'm telling you what. I think, but that's the thing. That's the thing, though. That's the thing. Like, there's 50 different churches down one street. Okay, and if you go into one church and they start treating you bad, that does not mean that the next one will. Okay, but that's the thing. How can we?
But it also doesn't mean that any of them have any more or truth to offer, and that's all that I'm interested in. I have community without the church. I'm looking for truth and evidence of it.
Yeah, all of the churches, all the denominations of Christianity, except for Pentecostals, because they came way late, right? They came in 1940. Okay, I mean, they're way late to the picture. But every other historical, like Baptist, Roman Catholic, even, all the denominations, Methodist, Presbyterian, all of them believe that Jesus is God. They all believe in the Trinity. They all believe that he died and resurrected. Because if they didn't, then they would be not obeying what Paul said. And Paul said that if Jesus did not resurrect, then we as Christians would be the most pitied out of all humans, right? We should be the most pitied out of all humans because we believe in a false thing. But he then says right afterwards, but he did rise, and he did do that. So look, back to this. We got off on a tangent.
No worries. That's why I wanted to have more of a conversation than a debate anyway.
Yeah,
But go
for sure. But I do still want to know how Isaiah 52, even let's just, for sake of argument, let's say that this is talking about Israel. How would you prove that?
By reading it, it says like 8 different times that Israel is the servant.
No. I'm talking about Isaiah 52. The 13 through 15, which you read.
Well, that's simple. You just don't read it on its own. You read the whole thing and get the context.
No. In order for prophecy to be fulfilled, you must read what the prophecy is. So if this is
right, and you have to use the context surrounding that prophecy to understand it sometimes.
Isaiah gives multiple prophecies, okay? Even in 41, he breaks off from prophecy to talk about the false gods, which is in 42 through 45, right? And 46. But then after that, he starts prophesying again. It's a separate prophecy. It's not the same prophecy. See, that's a problem. He breaks off right there in 42 through 46 and talks about how there is no other God besides God. There is no this and that and the other. Idols, right? Prove to me that, your idols are alive and can speak to you. Pray to them. They can't speak back. They can't, all that stuff.
You said 42?
Yes. Well, starting from 42, it's a big thing. It's called some people call it the trial of false gods. And you probably heard that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But just look, we're not going to go into that today because that's a separate thing. I'm just saying that it breaks off. That's all I'm saying. It breaks off from, I believe it's 42, and I could be wrong, but from 42, either way, in between 41 and 52, it breaks off and starts talking about something else. And then Isaiah brings it back to another prophecy. So it's talking about a separate thing. It's not talking about the exact same prophecy.
I'll have to go back and read that.
That's fine.
It's a long chapter, or a long book.
Well, Isaiah's 66 chapters, bro. It's huge.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorites, though. It really is.
Oh, dude, to Christians, this is the 5th gospel. so because there's so many messianic claims, right?
And no offense to, I've talked to a lot of Christians who haven't read the Bible.
There's a lot.
This is one of the few books of the Old Testament that most Christians have at least perused.
Yeah. But again, I want. So we did get so I'm even giving you what you're trying to get context to say. What you're trying to get 41, chapter 41 to show that this is talking directly about Israel, which, I mean, that's a separate thing. But anyway, let's just, again, for sake of argument, that my servant that God's talking about right here is in fact Israel. How can the Israelites look at this and say, this was fulfilled? Because for prophecy to be fulfilled, you have to be able to look at the signs. So what signs can they show that they were his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance? How can they look at that and say,
that part wasn't the prophecy? That part is a statement of present facts for them. They are saying this is what Israel is right now. Israel is decimated. It's been beaten. It's been famined and diseased. And again, it uses this same symbolism to identify Israel as like this human type form several times. Even calling Israel God's son. Israel, you my son.
But what about the high and lifted up thing? Because they were not exalted.
No, they weren't. But it says they were going to be. It's just a failed prophecy. Nowhere. Nowhere does it say that
Israel will be exalted, right? Which means the exalted part, which means the exaltedness of God. That's what exalt is. That's when you are high and lifted up, exalted. And if we look into the New Testament, we see that Jesus was high and lifted up and exalted and seated at the right hand of power.
You're saying, how can Israel be exalted? You're saying it's not possible. Oh,
yeah. Did it come true is what I'm saying. Did it come true?
No, it definitely didn't come true.
But it came through. It came true in Jesus, though.
It still didn't come true in Jesus. None of the things that it says were going to happen happened after Jesus showed up. Do we have peace? Did Jesus come riding in on the clouds? All of the promise. There's not one single promise that actually came true that benefits us, in a way that we can test. All these great things, we're like, oh, God is promising all these great things. And you're like, look at all these things that happen, but none of them come with the benefits that were also promised. We still have war, we still have famine, we still have disease, we still have suffering, all the things that were promised to be gone when that Messiah came.
Because Christ has not come in his second return.
It also says nothing about a second return.
There were two separate.
It says a king will rule in Israel, and that will be the Messiah. Yes. And that king will bring peace, and all the nations around Israel,
which is a process. It's not a boom, there it is. And that's where I think we are now.
Man, we're getting worse.
It will be established throughout time. Sure. And it has been, because Christianity has been growing since day one.
It's actually not growing anymore. If you want to look up the stats on that, that's fine. But Christianity has been dwindling in numbers for about the past 10 years.
Yeah, because they're being murdered.
No, because people are changing their faith. Like they do surveys every year on this, and the numbers of Christians who are still alive.
Yeah. Well, Muslims are growing in the U.S. More rapidly than anything, and that's because of false attention to false claims about Jesus not being who he said he was. That's the problem we have.
The problem is we don't have evidence that.
We have so much evidence, okay? And that's the thing.
No, you have a lot of things that convince you, but your standards of evidence are much lower than mine.
No, but here's the thing. The New Testament is historically proven. And has been historically proven.
Much of it's also been historically debunked. If everything in there was true, then I'd be a believer, but it's not.
Not a single one, because here's the thing. We have dates. We have dated, right? All the way back to the earliest 2nd century now, because of the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have all of the accounts. We have thousands of copies of the New Testament documents that all date back to the earliest 2nd century, some the first, the latest of the 1st century. So
none of that accurately demonstrates that anything within those texts are true or not. We have a lot of different manuscripts. A lot of them vary in quite significant ways. Other ways are very minor, but there's a ton of differences between these texts. Anybody like Wes Huff, who tries to say that they're identical, is just straight.
He's made his own video. Now, people just don't want to look at that, but he's actually
I wasn't impressed by that video either. I think Wes Huff is I don't think any Christian should be following Wes Huff. He's going to bring you to some bad talking points. And all of the actual PhD scholars have already come out against a lot of the stuff he's saying, and saying Wes Huff doesn't know what he's talking about.
You say all. That's pretty bold.
Sorry, a little overgeneralizing there. Forget that.
Wait! Whoa! Right there. That's literally what Wes Huff did. So it's okay for you to do it, but not
No. Big difference when you're saying all these scholars that is I was making a claim to authority there that I overgeneralized. Wes Huff is trying to tell you that the thing that you live your life by was perfectly preserved, word for word, dot for jot and iota, in all of the
So the only
Dead Sea
difference
Scrolls,
is,
and that is a lie. There are thousands, tens of thousands
Mhm.
of alter or variances, and
Oh,
they
and
are
that's fine.
not
I mean,
just
I've
spelling variances. They are not just
yeah.
grammar mistakes. I
Well,
can
yeah,
send
they
you
are.
a video of an
Yeah, they
actual
are.
PhD scholar going through all of these things and
No,
showing
because
you that
here's
he
the
comes
thing:
with receipts.
if you read those accounts that you're referring to, where there's thousands of different variances and all that stuff, which, I mean, come on, we can look at them, right? And I have, you can look at them, and
Do you speak
10
Hebrew or
out of
Greek?
look, if you look at one chapter, you can look at 10 different variants, and they're all just and.
No,
The
and that's
literal
what I'm
word
saying
and.
is false, and that's what WFS wants you to believe now, that he was only referring to. There's
The
a special
fullness
name
of
for that type of mistake, where it's just like a little mistake, and not like a type of mistake that will change the meaning of the context.
Exactly.
And
Exactly, because it doesn't, because you still
but
get
it
the same
does. And
messianic
in fact,
problem.
let's have our next debate on this, because I have a
That'd be great.
lot of evidence on this, man, and I can
That's
come with
good.
receipts that these are not
That's
the
good.
same at all, and that there are so many variances that completely alter the meaning of those texts.
Okay.
What he is
We can look
referring
at it.
to, and he's right, there is a list of errors that are just like grammatical, and spelling kind of things. And then there's an entirely separate list of errors that outlines all, and that's the list that Westhuff is ignoring. He only wants you to know about the list of the grammatical errors, but I'll bring receipts for the
Yeah, we
real
can.
errors next time.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. We'll
Yeah,
do
that'll be a
that.
fun one.
I do, however, want to. So we've just kind of been talking around in circles in Isaiah.
Yeah.
So we can go to another one, which you say.
I actually, I've already gone 35 minutes over when I was able to. I got to start getting ready for.
That's
I'm
fine.
getting married in 3 weeks, so we got a whole bunch of stuff to do.
Congratulations, bro. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. All right.
But I would love to do this again, man. I enjoy having these talks. I don't take people disagreeing with me personally, and I'm just seeking truth and understanding. So I really appreciate you talking to me.
Well, and you know what? I don't want you to think that I was trying to, downgrade or anything like that throughout this discussion. Please, I get excited sometimes, so don't take that like that.
Man.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
Dude, I can't prove anything is true. I can only show you evidence that has convinced me of things. So, in the end of the day, man, it all comes down to we're all just trying to figure out what the heck we're doing here.
Amen, brother. Amen.
So, all right. Well, you have a good one, man, and I hope you stay safe and stay blessed.
Yes, sir. God bless you.